welcome to Bears Banner. Tonight on the broadcast right now is this myself, Bernard Muhammad, and Guy Moore. Hey, what's going on, Guy?
Hey, what's up, bro? All is good, man. How are you?
I'm doing good, man. Hey, we about to do something, we haven't did in a couple of weeks. Tammy did the last one. We about to do a little quick football one-on-one. I know we're supposed to do it last Friday, but we had to reschedule, so we're doing a little special tonight.
Yeah.
Yeah, hey, you were just talking about some of the stuff people say. Hey, can you share some of that? What you was talking about? What people say about the cover two at times?
I have a more profound respect for our defensive backs now because basically what a cover two is you got a four-man front and you've got your three linebackers, your cornerbacks, and you got two deep safeties. What's indicative of a cover two is you've got two safeties in the back and they're both covering half the field. It's primarily a zone defense, and a lot of times it's run out of base packages of 4-3s and 3-4s. But the weak spot of a cover two is the middle of the field. What makes a cover two so effective is the fact that you have guys within a zone covering a zone, and they can actually support the run as far as stopping the run and as well as limiting the passes. But I don't care what type of defense you talk, but even more so with something like this, the most important component about a cover two is you have to have quarterback pressure. You got to have four-man pressure. You got to have that three technique guy up there basically maybe stunting or taking on two blocks so somebody else can eat. Because the less time that you give a quarterback to throw a ball, the more effective that you are. And the cover two is great. And I'll give you an example. Remember when we was like although we're Tom Brady like fans, but hating Tampa Bay. When Tampa Bay beat Kansas City in the Super Bowl, who's gushing about the cover two safety shell, how they basically just shut them down. There are a lot of components. Somebody may have not understood what I said. I said Ndamukong Suh had I think he had a half a sack and maybe two tackles. It was one of the most dominating people on the line. It's because he was taking on two blockers. He's giving gap pressure right up the middle, causing Mahomes to have to get rid of the ball fast. So they were able to put in different stunts, different blitzes, different coverages, and it made them look like world beaters. But that's what a cover two should look like when all the components are there.
Okay, so we'd like to thank everybody who's watching us tonight on Facebook and YouTube as we do a quick tutorial on football one-on-one on the cover two. The cover two is one of many defenses that I ran in the NFL. I know when a lot of times when people look back and they see two safeties, they automatically think, okay, they're in the cover two. But a cover two does indicate that there are two safeties. But Guy's going to get into some of the more intricate details of a cover two. Hey, Guy, you ready to jump into this?
Yeah, let's hit that first slide, man.
Okay, let's bring that up.
Okie dokie. Here we go. Okay, this is what a basic cover two looks like. What separates it and what makes it prominent is if you look at the top, the FS and the SS. You got the free safety and the strong safety. Each one covers one half of the field deep. So their responsibility is if anything goes real far, they've only got half a field. There are other couple components with the cover two defense that are very important. Like it's primarily a zone defense, but it can be run as a man defense, partial man, partial zone, but it's primarily a zone defense. Kick it to the next one. Just got the three. Okay, now let's look up at the top left-hand side. The cover two defensive linemen. You got the ends, the tackles, defensive ends on the line right there. As you look at those lines out there, you're looking at different techniques. And if you look at the defensive tackle, especially we talk about the three technique guy, he's the guy that basically is lined up on the outside the shoulder. And he has and those guys, although that looks really simple, they have a very important role in the cover two. And that's to apply pressure and to get to the quarterback, which actually gives the quarterback less time to think about where he's throwing. And because it is a zone defense, and I know you guys remember Jay always talking about guys in zones or whatever it is, what they do is if you get a defense that's not that great, you just get a receiver to go in and hit in the spot, just sit in the spot in the zone. That's why it's important to have coverage, because if you give the quarterback less time to think, now that cover two defense is really hard to beat. Now, in the top right-hand corner, we've got the defensive linemen, the wide linebackers. We have the Will on the left side there, the Sam on the right, and the middle is the Mike. The Will is the weak side linebacker. The S is the strong side linebacker, and the middle is the Mike.
I have a question, guy.
Yeah.
Let's go back a second. You mentioned the three technique.
Mm-hmm.
For those who may not know, can you explain like three technique or give an example of a Bears player that was a good three technique when they ran over 200 Lovie Smith?
What's my guy's name? Tommy
Harris.
Yeah, Tommy Harris was a good three technique guy. Guys in the league right now, because I know a lot of people may not remember, because we haven't had like the greatest of football players, like guys on the line as much. But a guy right now who's a really great three technique guy is Aaron Donald. Mm-hmm. Aaron Donald is the type of guy, and if you were just to kind of like just zoom in, and I know we watch football, but sometimes if you're like football nuts like us, what we do sometimes is we'll go through plays and go over and over plays and look and see what guys do. A great three technique guy is usually a faster guy. He's not a bigger guy. He's more of a speed guy. And he's a strong guy. But what happens is you're going up against these offensive linemen, and your job is to have that. Like, you'll see different swim moves. You'll see different arm moves. You'll see him apply the pressure going up right there. If you look at the defensive tackles, the defensive ends on the outside have the outside pressure. But Aaron Donald, a lot of times what he'll do, he'll go on and double block the guard and the tackle. So now you're freeing up a defensive end. If you've got like a safety that decides to come in on a blitz, it's wide open. But it's very, very, very important as a three technique guy. When you're doing stuff like that, you have to be a dog. You have to be a straight up dog. But they're coming in on the outside shoulder of the guard, and their job, they line off to the outside somewhat, and they try to create a deficit, which is, like you say, the swim moves and different things. And Tommy Harris was pretty good at that too.
Okay, so hey, let's go back to you just said the Will, the Sam, and the Mike.
Right.
Okay, what does Will stand for?
Will is the weak side linebacker, and he's usually on the side where there usually isn't your shorter side, where you don't have the majority of your guys, like your wideouts or your tight ends. Usually a side, if you look up, if there's like a tight end wide receiver, it's like the 11 personnel is a tight end. 10 times out of 10, the Will is going to line up on the side that doesn't have the tight end. So you've got, and the middle guy, the middle one's like almost like a center fielder. He's basically like a side-to-side guy. And the Sam is the strong side guy. He's the guy that's usually responsible for the side that has all the personnel with the wide receiver and the tight end.
Okay. So Lance Briggs was a Will linebacker.
He was a Will linebacker. Okay. But see, what made that work, and we're going to get into that later, but what made it work was the fact that he wasn't very fast, but he was dominant. Mm-hmm. And when you have linebackers, when you've got stud linebackers, it changes a whole lot of dimensions, man, because you got so many different things. And sooner or later, we're going to go into, down the line, there's some things I had in as far as route trees and different things that are out there. His coverage is very important. The Will guy. So he'll get guys coming out in the flat. He may be responsible sometimes for picking up the maybe if a tight end comes across, or usually like a fullback that comes out. But it don't get it twisted thinking that the weak side linebacker is weak. It's very important. And what I will tell you that's very interesting, that you probably see quite a bit, and a lot of people look at it and say, why does this guy block this guy when you have misdirection plays? And the reason why that is because in a cover two, a lot of times when a quarterback snaps the ball and they watch the X guy, the wide receiver one come out, that's indicative of telling them, okay, what's going to happen? And they're also watching the quarterback. So say if you got your strong side, you got your one over there, you got your tight end, and then you got your other guy, the flanker off, who's the guy on the other side who actually sits off. He's a Z guy. He sits like 3 yards off the line. Say, for instance, you're selling as an offense that the play is going to go over to the strong side and you misdirect. Now what happens is once you've gone back to try to sell that the play is going that side, all the attention is to the strong side. So when they reverse it to the other side, now what you're trying to do is you're trying to make matchup problems. You're trying to, like, for example, you want to go like, say, 3 for 3. Like, for example, you've got your cornerbacks and the wide receivers, and there's certain type of routes that you can run, like they'll do to kind of split guys up to open it up. But when you have fewer personnel on the other side, you do a misdirection play. Now the guys on the other side, they absolutely have to tackle guys, or it's going to be some long gains.
Okay. Hey, you want me to move to the next slide, or you cover
this? We got to go through the other one. The other one is the linebackers in the secondary. Well, with the linebackers and secondaries, as you can see there, you've got the cornerbacks on each side. You know, if you can see the Will and the Sam as far as the outside coverage, and the middle linebackers usually in the middle there. Sometimes they drop back somewhat in coverage. And if you notice, pretty much almost every team has cover too. But what differentiates some teams from others are the personnel strengths. Because if you got a middle linebacker that just knows that plays, like us, for example, Jack Sanborn. Jack Sanborn doesn't run like a 4.4 40, but he knows the plays. So the thing that he has an advantage of in some instances is the fact that knowing the nuances of certain plays, he can actually get a step or two up, which kind of sort of helps him with recovery speed. But the unfortunate part about it in a cover two is the fact that you got all that open space in the middle of the field there. And that middle linebacker, if he's on an island, if you got a tight end that just goes straight out, it's that guy's job while the safeties are picking up the wide receivers. It's his job to stay with that tight end, which is why I say guys like Gronkowski, dudes like that who actually cause problems because they've got the speed. They're faster than the linebackers. And if they get some goal, you got trouble.
Okay. Yeah, like thank everybody who's watching us on YouTube and Facebook. What we're doing now tonight is Football 101, the cover 2 explained.
Yep. Let's hit that next slide real quick,
next
man.
Slide.
Okay, so here's the strengths of the cover 2. You know, it's simple. You know, it's easy. The cover 2 defense is easy for players to understand because most players are only responsible for covering a specific zone of the field instead of trying to remember multiple responsibilities with intricate schemes. You're responsible for a particular part. And as we looked in the last one, the prior slide, as far as looking at how a cover 2 is set up, if you look at the circles, they're responsible for that spot right there. Now, you don't want to be Captain Saban, though. You might hear us sometimes talk about, like, say, linebackers. Who was our guy that was there last year? Crazy guy, linebacker that kept getting knocked. He kept trying to knock people out and getting knocked out. What was his name? Oh man, this
last year we had Danny
Trevathan. You ever notice how a lot of times offenses would exploit our defenses by sending a tight end guy out, or they'll send a mismatch and send a slot guy out. And now if he's a burner, or you have, for the most part, say a tight end. You've got a tight end coming out. He's fast on Danny Trevathan. Danny Trevathan, in my opinion, wasn't the greatest cover linebacker. And it was always a mismatch. You would always see this tight end running out there wide open, and he's trailing a guy. Guys like that, when it comes to that, it's like you have a certain spot to defend. But what neutralizes that is if the components that you go against on offense are faster than you and they beat you to a spot. And you got different things like we've seen the safeties, like we'll look up at Eddie Jackson, like, man, what did he do here? We talk about blown assignments.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of times what I will say, and like I said, we're trying to keep this as vanilla as possible because in cover 2, Tampa 2, you got the spy, you got the under, over, robber. It's so many different intricacies there that it would take us about 4 or 5 shows just to kind of cut the ice. So I'm just kind of giving you guys a basic understanding of a cover 2. Since you're responsible for a spot, that is all you're responsible for. Your objective is to be there when that receiver is there. And sometimes what we call like bend but don't break. Because one of the softer spots where you want to cover is like right there in the inside, like right in front of the safeties area. So what happens is a bend but don't break. If you pressure the quarterback, it's more prolific because now you got a whole lot of guys sitting in the zone that can basically see a ball coming and they can go get the interception. But if you don't have coverage, man, you get a guy like Tom Brady standing back there, the guy that basically knows every play that he does with his eyes closed. It's simple as receivers. Okay, this is what we're gonna run every time I throw it, and he looks like a superhero because he's completed so many passes.
Yeah, hey, guy, I wanted to take a break for a minute to go, note that Denver Broncos actually fired their coach today. Sorry for breaking
Yeah.
away from the script.
No, it's fine.
Yeah, that's interesting that they fired him within 1 year. It's not many coaches that get fired. Well, some of the black coaches have got fired in 1 year, but it's not many coaches in the NFL that get fired after 1 year. But that was a disaster. That whole thing, and you know, just think about this. 2 years ago, we were on this show when the first time it came up that Russell Wilson wanted to be traded, and Bears was on his list. And I know we was kind of going back and forth, but I know Jay was one of the main ones. Like, no, we don't want Russell Wilson.
Right.
And I believe that contract was $200 million. Over, I think over 5 years. Now that's a contract based off his age, but that looked like a total disaster as far as the contract with him. My brother had called me last night and he asked me like, what would be some of the solutions to that? And I said, hey man, they should just do a healthy scratch on Russell Wilson these next 2 games.
Yeah.
And you know, quarterbacks, not as quarterback, but NFL players have pride. And when they're a long time player like him, Pro Bowler, Super Bowl winner, their best bet would be, I believe, if Russell Wilson was to be retired. That would be the best out for them in this situation, and maybe healthy scratches and let them know if he don't announce retirement that they're actually going to bring in competition next year, and if they have to let him sit, because cutting him is not an option. And also, I don't know if anybody going to take that contract because I think he got still $150 million cap hit on that. But you got any thoughts on that, Russell Wilson?
Yeah, I do. I mean, ladies and gentlemen, I think a lot of people were kind of gassed up about us getting rid of Khalil Mack, getting rid of Roquan Smith. And I understand the sentiment, but you also have to understand, as well as much as football is football, it's a business as well. As I'm looking right now, they traded Drew Lock, tight end Noah Fant, defensive lineman Shelby Harris, 2 first-round picks, which was the number 9 overall 2022 and 23, 2 second-round picks, and a 2022 fifth-round selection to the Seahawks for Wilson, and a 2022 fourth-round pick. Plus, you gave him money. So what you did is he's the stud quarterback, he's everything, but look at what you gave up. So now you got a guy coming here. He's making all this money. You don't have money to go out and get some dogs like you did. And who was my guy, the linebacker that left Seattle? Well, he actually left Denver. Yeah, so you get guys that leave some of your major components, and now you got Russell Wilson. Russell Wilson can't do it by himself. And ladies and gentlemen, this is what happens when you sell the farm for one guy and give him all that money. You get this. You get guys who are, for all intents and purposes, and in our opinion, what we were saying, it was no disrespect to Russell Wilson, but he's kind of on this end of his career. Now you bring him to a team where he really ain't got nobody, and this is what you get.
Yeah. I'm happy we dodged that situation, because the worst thing you could be is a bad team with no first-round picks, which was kind of what we experienced this year, is coming off that kind of salary cap hit and also not have a first-round pick, and you have a lot of holes to plug. So they'll be facing the same thing. And like I keep saying, there's nothing good gonna come out of y'all. We got you back for the Jay Cutler trade. Y'all swindled us.
Yep. It's some get back. It's like when James Brown go get me some get back. But it's funny, you know what? But the way I look at it, though, man, is I think that what people need to do when they get, like, they wax poetic about people that they want, like, for example, I think people were on us because they thought that we were dogging out Roquan and Khalil Mack. And it wasn't that. You have to look at where we are. You have Matt Nagy, the ultimate narcissist, come up, and they just totally, first year they come out like gangbusters because everything is like the new and shiny toy. And from that point, they've gotten like progressively worse.
Mm-hmm.
So you're getting some guys coming in now, and they didn't draft really. The only guys they got are Briskers and guys like that. But prior, when they came in, those guys they didn't draft. They didn't draft Tevin Jenkins. So a lot of times, a lot of teams, because I think you said this on the show maybe last year or this year about how sometimes these new regimes come in, and some people may say some guys are the best thing since sliced bread, but they weren't 100% sold. And I liked their approach that they came, because their whole thing was like, the one thing that I remember the most prominently about Eberflus, which was really cool, was we were always in this cahoots about, well, why isn't Justin Fields getting any reps in preseason? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Whereas when Eberflus showed up, he said, hey, the best man gets the spot. And that's how it should be. You know, now you've got a situation where Poles and we'll say primarily Poles is looking around like, you gone. 23 deep, 23 guys gone.
Hey, let's get back to the football one-on-one. Man, we missing Jay and Plank.
Man, I wish they were here, man. I should drive by their house and just say, hey, get on.
Yeah, I hadn't heard from today, but we wanted to get this football one-on-one out of the way. So, hey, let's move back to the slide. But thank everybody who's watching us tonight on YouTube and Facebook.
So let's go back to the other strengths. You're keeping the ball underneath the cover two. The cover two defense was designed to prevent big yardage on plays on offense. That's because the coverage funnels receivers to routes underneath and makes it hard for receivers to gain big yardage. What does that mean? What that means is, as a cornerback in a cover two defense, one of your assignments is to make sure that you win the battle, even if you don't win the battle with the wide receiver, that you force him to the middle of the field where all the help is. The other soft spot that I forgot to tell you about in the cover two is outside. Because what happens now is when you're playing zone, you know, that's with the zone aspect. With the zone aspect, you got a huge gap behind you between the quarterback and the safety and out there. And if you got two guys wide, now you got 2-on-2, but if you got a burner, quarterback could just say, hey, I could throw it over the cornerback and in between the safety. The safety's not going to bite on it because he's scared of getting burnt, or vice versa, where the guy's just so fast, he's beat the cornerback and the safety's on his wheels and he's not that fast. You got a quick six.
Yeah, guy. I know when we talk about that gap between the cornerbacks and the safety in that cover two, where there's kind of like a gap there. That is not an easy throw.
No, it's not.
For the real good quarterbacks like Mahomes and some of the other ones.
Yeah.
I mean, they recognize it, so they're actually anticipating that throw to get it in that. Because it's a small window, but it's not no easy throw. And believe it or not, a lot of the quarterbacks in the league have problems playing against a tough cover two zone. Because they do not have that anticipation, and they have to lob it and put zip on it. Kind of lob it in a way, you know, I hate to use those terms because they kind of like contrary to each other, lob and zip. But it's almost where you got it clear over the D-back, but it has to be able to drop in right between that area before the safety comes up, which is not easy.
Yes, that is true. And remember when we were talking last year about certain things about like with Justin Fields, for example, like we all had faith that, you know, after about 20 games, you can kind of see what happens. What people don't realize is the difference between the NFL open window and the college open window. When you're a stud in college, one of the first thing the quarterbacks see is, okay, you're not going against a good cornerback in college, like, you know, like in the pros, like college. Your cornerback that you're going against or your safeties you're going against are probably Kodak All-Americans. So they're twice as fast as the guys that you would see at the same time. Like you would have a stud, like he made at Ohio State, he might have had a guy that was a stud cornerback and the safety was shot, or vice versa. But because of his familiarity with the offense, he was able to kind of manipulate things. Now you in the NFL, your cornerback and your safety, if they're on the field playing and they've been playing, they were probably the best players in the nation. So that window is like this. So you look at it from a standpoint like we would always talk about when you're on the field, where we look over on TV and we see the overhead view. How did he miss that pass? Because on the field level, they don't look open, or they may look open and they're not. And like you were saying about the touch pass, it's like a back shoulder fade. I know I was fanboying over a back shoulder fade that Justin Fields threw in preseason last year. It ain't, I said this, and you'll understand why. It ain't a whole lot of stud quarterbacks that can actually throw that pass. It is a tight A pass.
Yeah.
But
you know, a good example of how hard that pass is to throw is, and I'm gonna take the excuse out that he had a concussion, because he did have a concussion, but I don't know what point in the game as far as Tua. But if you look at those 3 interceptions Tua threw, I want to say at least 2 of them where he was actually trying to get the ball over in that open zone, and those D-backs just bit down on it, which calls into question his arm strength. But let's not, I'm not going to stay on that, but let's get back to the.
No, that's fine. It's just me and you, man. So we good.
Okay.
The other thing, it covers receivers beautifully, because 7 defensive players are dropping the coverage. There isn't a lot of available space on the field for receivers to find an opening. Goes back to what we just said prior to that. Also allows linemen to attack. The defensive linemen in cover 2 defense are asked to do what they love to do best: attack straight ahead. They're tasked with putting as much pressure on the offense straight up the field as they're able to. And that's with the strength side of it. But however, for every strength,
there's a weakness.
There are weaknesses. The one weakness in the cover 2, it could be susceptible to the run. Because since the cover 2 defense has every linebacker dropping his zone coverage, it can be susceptible to running plays. That's because the linebacker's first step is often away from the line of scrimmage instead of up towards the line of scrimmage to plug holes along the line. You'll see guys in the cover 2, and if you got a stud back, and they may do something like they may have done a play action, and they might be getting it in, getting passes in, or whatever it is, and then they hand it off. And then you like, well, man, can't they stop the guy? Well, because they're in a cover 2 zone, it's kind of hard. And it's up to the guys that are right up at the line to try to stop it. And if they're double teamed and they're blocked off and they create gaps, it can be anywhere from 4, 7, 8 yards.
Yeah, let me share this comment from a Facebook user. Thank you for your comment. It says it's a 17-yard window.
Yep.
Because the corner is usually responsible for
15-yard flat. That is so true.
You have to make that throw before the safety can get to the top. Great information.
That's excellent information. And let me just kind of piggyback on that. Back to what we were saying before. And we come as fans, but like I say, we watch the games where we study too. I'm going to tell you right now, this ain't no sitting up in the sand lot. We're talking about a quarterback who was considered a stud in college. And they come, even guys who've been in the league 4, 5, 6 years. You have to understand certain nuances of where positional players are, how they're positioned on the field as opposed to your receiver, to kind of know where the gaps are. Because when you're on field level and looking, you look at the fist fight between the cornerback and the wide receiver. You look at the safety and see how close is he. There's other things you got to remember. How fast is this safety? Oh, he's an all-pro guy. Like if you say run a cover 2 and you got Ed Reed back there as one of your safeties, and your cornerback is kind of doing a fairly decent job on your WR1, and you got this pressure coming up, it's not like you got 7, 8 seconds to throw a ball. You got maybe 2 seconds to decide. And because of the cover 2, the way the blanket coverage is, it's kind of hard to decipher who's open sometimes or not. And like you used to say, you would say is you have to throw the guy open. But back to the other weakness, which we were talking about, underneath passes can work because both safeties drop into deep coverage, and because the linebackers can do the same too. Short crossing routes can often find available space against a cover 2 defense.
Oh, no, I'm sorry.
Yeah, and it can't be run all the time because it's susceptible to underneath passes and running plays. It's difficult to run a cover 2 defense on every play unless the defensive line can create some serious pressure up front on every play. And that is absolutely true, which is why, like I said, we don't get into different things about the cover two because there's so many wrinkles.
Yeah, then what you would me being an offensive person, you know, we try to do things to try to get you uncomfortable, right? It's a chess match the whole game.
That's the word I was going to think of.
Yeah,
Excellent.
so it's a chess match. So maybe I'm going to put three receivers on one side to try to create some mismatch in the zone, or maybe I'm trying to create a one-on-one with your corner on the other side, right? I'm doing little things to try, and so maybe what I do, which I have seen this cover two susceptible to, is you have that running back delayed. And he runs out and runs that little, you know, he just kind of, I call it old terminology. You just belly out, right?
Right. That is absolutely true, man. I mean, and I think a lot of times people, as I said before, we're fans and we watch stuff, and I think stuff is great, you know, but by the same token, you also have to understand it is a chess match because you're responsible for specific fates. Yep. See, and somebody just said that you just stole my thunder, man. you stole my thunder, man. But this is what I love about the show, and that's why I pump up the people that are here, man. Because we about to go and flip that other slide. You about to sound like Nostradamus. Whoever that Facebook, who is that Facebook user?
I can't see their name.
I don't know who it is, but
your name down there.
It must be a defensive back or somebody who's a straight up stud. Because the very first thing, and I wanted to use the weak side flood. And the reason being, you know, is because, you know, you're on the weak side of the field by running at least 3 passing routes that way. So in this case, 3 or 4 receivers will run their routes to the weak side of the field. The running back may also run his route to the weak side. The only receiver who will run a route to the other side is the Z guy, as you can see on the far right-hand side. It's best to run this route not too deep, as it'll make it easier for the strong safety to decide to stay on that side of the field. The goal here is to entice the strong safety to follow the Y. On the left, the X will run the quick hitch route, while the H will run a deep post route. Just like you said, it's a chess match. It's like when you run a flood, now what happens is you're exploiting so many spots, and instead of stuff being wide open, now as a cornerback, as a Sam, as a Will, as a Mike, the strong safety and free safeties, you got to make a decision fast. Yeah. But like right here, you got 4 guys. Like, you know, you got 4 guys coming out here. You got to pick your poison. And if you got a quarterback that's a stud, they can exploit the heck out of you, man.
Hey, thanks. That was Coach El Ray. Thank you for your comment.
Figures. What's up, Coach El Ray? Here's another thing.
You know what? Like looking at this right quick, guy. So one of the things that happen is, even though everybody on the defense know what their assignments are, what end up happening is, one is some people start losing their discipline, or if they want to play hero ball, right? So I'm the quarterback on this design that you got right now with these routes. Say I'm just going to use a quarterback. Let's say Mahomes. So what I want to do sometime on a play like this is, as soon as it snap, I'm going to stare down the wide receiver. I'm going to stare down a wide receiver. So if I catch this free safety, right, he's looking. If I notice he's staring at me a lot, so I'm staring at this. I'm staring at this Y, and so as this Y start running, look like maybe a skinny post.
Look like a skinny post. Yeah.
Okay, if this free safety thinks he's gonna jump the ball, I'm gonna do a pump fake to move him over some. Then I'm gonna catch that. What's that? The tight end. I'm gonna try to get that tight end wide open, right there over in the corner. And this is what happened a lot in the NFL. Quarterbacks they do stuff like that where they catch a person looking in, and they're like they're gonna jump this route. And sometimes you know the quarterback is staring at the guy they're gonna throw it. And so a lot of times it do work, but you're more your quarterbacks who are more seasoned, they're using that to not maneuver the guy who's covering him, but to maneuver the other guy across the field to not play his zone correctly.
Well, let's look at some scenarios. You got your safety valve as the running back. You got to watch him. You know, you got to watch him, number one. okay, if the cornerback stays shallow, it's going to be hard for the safeties and outside linebackers to catch up with the deeper routes. But if the quarterback goes deep, now you got the outside linebackers catching up with the shorter routes, and they'll have to run. So then now you got the Mike that's basically just there. Like, nobody's really running crossing routes. So now you got, just like we were saying, it's a chess match. And I'll go back to something that we talked about. I think I showed you this. This was like a year or two ago. Remember when Coach Belichick said Ed Reed made the greatest play on Peyton Manning that he'd ever seen a defensive back do? What he did, I think people don't understand how important it is to study your playbook. There's one play that Peyton Manning does. What Peyton Manning does is he pump fakes. He pump fakes. Now as a defense, we need to watch this. Now you got another guy over here that just sneaks wide open. What Ed Reed did is he studied Peyton. He said, if he pumps right, he's throwing left. So he goes back like this, and he turns like he's going to open up and spins this way. Peyton Manning throws it right to him. So when you get that, like you were saying, the chess match, you've got so many different opportunities. Sometimes you may have two guys open. The question is, which guy do I hit? And if push comes to shove and I got pressure, guess what? I got the running back coming right out here in the flat.
Hey, you know what? I would like to send congratulations to Ed Reed. Ed Reed today was named as the head coach of Bethune-Cookman HBCU. Head coach today. So Ed Reed is going to be taking his talents to Bethune-Cookman College. Okay, hey, let's get back to the slide. We're going to try to wrap this show up in the next 8 to 10 minutes. All right.
Okay, well, let's do something else real quick. Let's flip to the next one. We're going to go over what happens when you got a cover two and you really need a better coverage to resolve that situation in the middle. It's called Tampa 2. I think it was incorrectly credited to Tony Dungy. Mind you, this defense, Tampa 2, basically came from the old Pittsburgh Steelers. And if you understand or don't know, Tony Dungy was a defensive back with the Steelers. And what he did is he took it and he made some wrinkles. One of the things is this. It's like you ask yourself a question as a defensive back. If I'm in a cover two, what's the weakest part of cover two? It's the middle of the field. So what do? It's a little more intricate in my respect that you just drop a middle linebacker in coverage. And it's not a cover three. It's actually a cover two, and you got it. What's one of the most important things, the components that will make a Tampa 2 defense work? Okay, it's simple. Just like everything else, it's very versatile. It covers all the zones well, and it can be confusing. And I'm going to tell you why. If you look at teams that had great cover two defenses, I'll just go with our beloved Bears. Who was our middle linebacker? Brian Urlacher. What traits did Brian Urlacher have to make this Tampa 2 defense pop? Well, he was a 6'4", 250-pound linebacker who was an ex-free safety that ran about a 4.4, 4.5. So when you drop a guy like that back in coverage, now you got three safeties, and he's probably faster than the two safeties. So now you take away the middle part. So now what happens is the coverage is actually like threefold. It's like in thirds now. There's so many different things that you can have with the Tampa 2. And if you remember, Dungy ran it with the Tampa Bay team. When the Tampa Bay team was real bad, they came in, he put that Tampa 2 in there. And then, of course, who was the defensive coordinator, one of the defensive guys with that Tony Dungy Super Bowl team? Lovie Smith.
Lovie Smith.
And what does Lovie Smith do? Lovie Smith brings it to the Bears, and then they draft Urlacher as the strong safety that he was, and convert him to a middle linebacker.
Urlacher was a prototype linebacker for a cover two. I mean, it's very rare that you could get anybody that size. That's talking as far as a linebacker that actually could go from side to side. I just watched something recently where Mike Vick said that was the only player that actually chased them down in games. And I want to say he said as a starting quarterback, he never beat Brian Urlacher in the game. But hold on, what we got right here from one of the Facebook users? We have.
Yep. You make them choose. I call it conflict of assignment. If you run two guys through the same zone, then it makes the corner try and play two men and run the third guy past the safety. one of them will be open. That is so true. That's like the chess match. And I think that I'm glad that we're doing this, and kind of sort of segueing off of this real quick. The reason why I'm happy that we're doing this is a lot of times people who watch football and don't really study football, they'll see a cornerback or a guy, oh, he got burnt. No, he didn't get burnt. He was doing his assignment. The guy was just too fast. You have two options. It's like, okay, if I got two guys and they're going this way and they're within a zone situation, it depends on who the quarterback throws to. If he pump fakes this way and you go there and he throws it to that guy, it's not that they're blowing their assignments. It's the fact that they sold something and they did something else. They did what they were going to do. They just guessed wrong.
Okay. You know? Okay. So you got some strengths to the Tampa 2 right here.
Yeah. It's simple. It's just basically a cover 2 where you got your middle linebacker, you know, basically dropping back in coverage. But like I said, it's very important. It can work with anybody, but it's more effective when your middle linebacker is really fast and really good at covering. Like if you want to put Danny Trevathan in a Tampa 2, and if you got a guy like Gronkowski that's got some speed, or Kelsey's got speed, you dog walk him all day long. And that's the thing, but it's like it has its strengths. It's very versatile, man, because against the run too, it's great. And then you can kind of put a little spy situation in there. And the other thing I like about cover 2, which is really good, just like we always talk about, every offensive player, in order to be a football player, to be an NFL player, you have to understand how defenses work. You know what they're going to run when they set up. One of the things that they did with not just a Tampa 2, but just like a cover 2, what they'll do, they'll sell it as a cover 1. Like they'll look like they'll have a guy like, for example, like the cornerback come up in the slot like he's going to be the slot guy, and you have another guy come in, and it looks like a cover 1. As soon as they snap it, that cornerback runs straight back in the coverage, his other safety, and the wheel may come out this way, or you have your other guy that sets up like a cover 2. So there's so many different wrinkles and nuances. We'd have to do a whole lot of shows, because you got the man, you know, and that's another thing that I just want to tell you about the man too. So let's go to the next slide here about the Tampa 2 routes.
Okay. And I want to bring this up real quick, and I want to stray into it, but I'm just going to mention there are gap responsibilities in the cover 2, but we're not going to cover that tonight.
Right.
Next week, Jason Wynn, former NFL player, who played for the Carolina Panthers for about maybe 5 years, and he played for Tampa Bay Buccaneers. He's going to come back and talk about defensive terminology. Okay. Okay. So hey, let's get back to this slide. We're gonna wrap this up.
So just real quick, okay, it could be easy to read, you know, because the teams that run the Tampa 2, if they don't employ a lot of wrinkles in the play calling, they're allowing the offense to read the play. So that's because, like in the base formation, each player's got the same basic responsibilities from play to play. So the key to a Tampa 2 defense is implementing at least some different packages of blitzes. It could be susceptible to shorter passes, because the Tampa 2 was designed to stop the passing like the West Coast offense and stuff. So it's susceptible to pass plays over the middle if less experienced defensive team can't get to their zones. The middle linebackers, he's asked to drop back into coverage, you know, to cover the void on the inside. So if a smart offense with speed receivers, they can take advantage of it by running quicker and shorter passing plays, misdirection plays like we were talking about before. So if the offense is able to establish some sort of running game and then works in play action passes, the offense can get a linebacker, cornerback, or a safety to bite on a fake running play. So let's go to the other one. There's different types of route trees. So the smash is referred to like a China. It's a concept and a popular way to attack too high coverage structure. It's a two-man combination that attacks the area behind the cornerback and outside the safety. It's kind of hard to see it, but the smash route is what you see on the left. And what happens is just like, I think that was Coach Elroy was talking about it. What happens is a chess piece. It's like a pick your poison. Okay, so let's go to the next slide real quick, because I know it's a lot of it.
Yeah, we get down to the last 2 minutes.
Okay, so the cover 2 man real quick. Okay, you got the 2 deep safeties, but the responsibility is different on a cover 2 man, because now it's man coverage. You got to have some guys and some dogs that can cover. But as a cornerback now, you can do something like this. Like, for example, you can jam the guy You may want to play ball, but a lot of times what you do is you jam the guy and let the guy go to the safety while you're playing on, you got one on top and one on the bottom. Just take them there to kind of cover that. Okay, the next one to cover two.
Hey, guy, let me say this real quick. One of the
Okay.
Facebook users said motion helped the offense determine if the defense are in man or zone as well.
That
Great
is
point.
absolutely true.
So early in the season, one of the things I had mentioned was I noticed the Bears, at least through the first 3 to 4 games, they never went in motion, which I was, so that made me know that they was trying to keep it so simple for Fields at that time that they did not go in motion. But the disadvantage of that is what the Facebook user just said. Then you don't really know exactly if they're man or zone because you have to just kind of guess by formation if you don't go in motion. But anyway, let's go right here. What you got, guy? I know we got.
Let's go to the next one. That was the next one up. We're gonna throw some. I got some little things, diagrams I have from Madden plays. Let's pass that one. Go one more. Okay, like right here, you got the 4-3 over Tampa, 4-3 under. If you look at the circles, you're looking at the coverage areas that you can see is difference. You've got the big nickel in the cover two, the double mug. And like I said, I could go through explain them all, but the reason why I put these illustrations, it shows what areas that they cover in these different defenses. So like, for example, say, for instance, as they said, you got a man. If you want to know if it's zone or man, you send a guy in. If the guy follows him, they're in man. If he doesn't, it's zone. The good part about that is the fact that if you're in zone, you got some dogs. No matter where you go, you're going to be fine because everybody's in sync and they know that as soon as you go in motion, the coverage is going to be exact. It's going to be, the setup's going to be the same, but the responsibility and the gap, the coverage in the zone is going to be different. With the man, if you got fast guys, it don't even matter. But that's a way to, to decipher between the two. I think that's the last slide.
Hey, real quick, guy. So one of the things the defense is going to do, like we said, is chess. They're going to do things to make us think that they're not exactly doing what we're perceived to do. So if I go in motion, right, that guy may come with me.
Yep.
Okay, so he may get to the quarterback and I send him back and he go. Why do I sometimes send that guy in motion and take him all the way across the field? Because I may be trying to determine if he's actually playing man, right?
Yeah.
You're also playing man, or the zone coverage could be split on half side of the field. They could be playing man on one side of the field, and they could be playing zone on the other side. So the defense is doing little stuff to try to make you think that, and that's why the guy sometimes you send him back and say, just go to the other side because now I'm trying to make sure that he looked like he may actually be playing me man if I go all the way to the other side. And so sometimes you'll see that guy go to the other side and that defensive back does not go on the other side with him. He's like,
your priority. Yeah, your priority is to exploit the coverage. When you send a guy in motion over there, you're overloading another side. Now what happens is you're creating a mismatch. Something we used to talk about with like even with Trubisky and Justin Fields, like they don't know the plays, cut the field in half. If you're cutting the field in half, you got the two-man thing going, whatever it is, people think, oh, well, they can cover that. But if the nuance is, just say I come in and just do it in. Now you got the cornerback stuck right there. You got a gap out in there, and you got the safety. If you play action, the guys run, you still have a spot. If he can keep hitting those. But let's talk about the guy in motion. What if they run in a zone and they put the guy in motion? You got a guy that's like a traveling cornerback that can cover the X or the Z. A guy like that, now it changes everything. So no matter who you send a guy in motion and he traveling, it's like, okay, they could be zone, they could be man, but whoever that dude following, I really may not, unless he's a stud and I know he can kind of get a guy, I don't want to really mess with that. Oh, pull that back up, man, because that was a really interesting comment that I just saw. Okay. Let's see. What was that? Let me see that real quick. Yeah, and to outflank the defense, the general rule is man for man. Exactly. Yeah, because see what happens, it's a chess piece. Everybody in the NFL knows what type of defense you run. They know the wrinkles. They know everything. But see what happens is it's just like with checkers. Everybody plays checkers. Everybody understands you jump a man. But a lot of times what happens, if I'm 2 or 3 ideas ahead of you, I know, say, I got your wide receiver one who's, say, Megatron, who's a stud, who's fast and strong. What people don't understand, the little nuances is not just the play. Say he's a guy that has a propensity to take a cornerback and just knock his arm down. He's stronger than him. And he turns this way a little bit off the run. Even if you're faster than him, it's almost like a moving pit where every time you do that, I don't care who you throw. And as a safety, it's like, okay, if he play actions this dude, okay, what if I bite and it don't go to him?
Yeah. Hey, thanks, guy. Hey, if you got anything else you want to share, we actually will be back on Friday with the pregame show with the Chicago Bears facing Detroit, right? This weekend? Mm-hmm. Detroit. So that
they got the Lions on New Year's Day.
A full crew back. Thank y'all for watching tonight. Peace.